Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, Nurkić returns and the Suns play with some pace. How much of tonight was sustainable and how much is really just preseason jargon? Let's break it all down next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up? Welcome into Locked On Phoenix Suns, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Benjamin Garcia, executive producer of Fox Sports 910 a.m. from 6 to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday. Thanks for making Locked On Suns your first listen. Click follow or subscribe to become an everydayer and get Locked On Phoenix Suns every day, wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube as well. Today's show is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. Start the season with a big return at FanDuel, placing your first $5 bet to get $200 in bonus bets. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, that is it. A wrap on the Phoenix Suns preseason. Everything that we saw came down to tonight. Now, listen, at this point in time, I don't lie to my listeners. I don't lie to my viewers. The game is still wrapping up. About 5 minutes left in that game. But I saw what I needed to see. And honestly, if I'm just being quite frank with you, once I saw Bronny James come into the game, I was like, all right, what are we going to talk about in the show? Obviously, this game, we're starting to get the developmental players in. We saw what we needed to see. Now, what did we learn? We'll get to Jusuf Nurkić. We'll talk about the rookies, and we'll look ahead to the Phoenix Suns season starting very, very soon. But I think something that we saw tonight, because, it can get lost. Fans can look at the preseason. I think I saw it with the Utah Jazz or someone. They hadn't won a single game in the preseason, whichever team it was. It really is irrelevant. The Suns could have lost this game by 20 points. And if I saw what I wanted to see, that's all that matters. The end result, Ty Washington putting it away, or whoever it is on the Lakers putting it away, it's not that big of a deal. Unless, of course, it's a rookie going scorched earth. What I saw in this game, and what I didn't see at all last year, was consistency. Mike Budenholzer has completely revolutionized this offense. And it's funny because I say revolutionized, but it's basically just a modern day basketball offensive lineup and a way of actually playing with the rest of the NBA. Too oftentimes last year, guys like Bradley Beal, guys like Devin Booker, guys like Kevin Durant, it just looked way too hard. Everything they did just looked hard. You could blame it on the depth pieces. You could blame it on they didn't have a point guard. Or you can blame it on what I blamed it on. The fact that they didn't have a wing defender. It is becoming increasingly more obvious through 4 preseason games that the main person of note, of blame for this team going sideways last year was Frank Vogel. I wasn't on this show last year. I am kind of known for a big opinions guy. I want to make you think. And I want to say what I believe. I want you to actually think about what I have to say. And I want to make you think. And if my opinion comes across the right way, I've made you think. I don't need you to necessarily agree with me. And I believe last year, I had said, if I'm not mistaken, you could fire Frank Vogel. It's not going to change anything. I've got egg all over my face. That was just utterly wrong. Openly, it was. And I'm not loyal to a take. I'm loyal to the truth. This offense just looks so much more fluid. There was a point in the game where I tweeted immediately. You could follow me on Twitter at Ben Garcia Show, where I had watched the ball swing around multiple times. Beautiful pass after beautiful pass, decisive, and it just looked easy. Part of Kevin Durant's struggles last year in this offense, and I say that so lightly because Kevin Durant was still superb last year. But part of his struggles last year was that everything looked hard. Devin Booker, everything just looked hard. Everything looked increasingly difficult to Bradley Beal. Everything in this offense looks fluid. It looks like it plays with more pace. And I never thought I would see a team led by Kevin Durant. I guess I shouldn't say led by, but starting with Kevin Durant, Jusuf Nurkić, Devin Booker. It's not a slight to Kevin Durant. I just don't mean to say Jusuf Nurkić is leading this team. These guys, these three players, two of them way older than Devin Booker, running up and down this court, fast breaks. At one point, was leading in this game 15 fast break points to Love, a.k.a. 0. This offense never played with that kind of pace last year. They look rejuvenated. They look like they're excited that the old teacher is gone and there's a new guy in who everyone relates to better. They speak the same language, and ultimately you just forget. Budenholzer, when he left the NBA, was seen as the buffoon of a head coach. Bucks fans wanted him ran right out of Milwaukee. Go ahead and ask Bucks fans at this point if they'd rather have Mike Budenholzer back. I bet you they'd like a mulligan on that opinion. Budenholzer has consistently made offenses that have had struggles in the past look more playable, look more modern. Part of this Suns team is not just its depth. It's not just the fact that they play with more pace. It's the fact that last year, you would ask me, what are the Suns good at? What's their identity? And I'd say, I think they're good at mid-range shots. And because I say I think they're good at mid-range shots, what I mean is Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant can shoot the mid-range shot pretty well. And now this year, through 4 preseason games, I'm like, what do they not do well offensively? That is what Budenholzer has added to this team. I don't worry so much about this next question, but it does make me pause and think. Because your identity cannot be offense. Your identity has to be something very specific. And I'm not so sure what the Suns' identity is yet. Could be 3-point shots. Could still be maybe the mid-range. I'm not sure. It's not a big deal. We'll know that very soon within the first 3 games. But it's not just where last year it was, well, they're pretty good at shooting mid-range shots. This year it's, what do they not do well? This team looks fluid. They're moving. Kevin Durant is getting to his spots at an easier pace, which is good for a guy who's much older than everyone else on this team. Everything is just easier. I'll relate it to it like this. You need to be able to get cheap points in every sport. You need to be able to get cheap home runs in baseball. That's why the long ball is so important now. You need to be able to go over the top of defenses, Tyreek Hill style. You need to be able to beat the cover 2 shells that teams are placing, 2 high safeties taking away the deep ball. At some point, you got to make some things easy. You got to get those cheap 80-yard touchdowns every so often. You got to make the defense honest. Suns as well. Last year, there were no easy touchdowns. There were no easy scores for this Suns team. This year, I have a feeling things are just going to come at a much simpler, efficient, and smoother pace. And that's what a head coach does. And that's why it shows to the greatness of Mike Budenholzer's ability in the NBA. I don't know if he's a top 3 coach. I don't know if he's a top 5 coach. But you can't just immediately take him out of those discussions. He could solidify himself as one of the better head coaches in the NBA this year with a deep playoff run. And with his offense and his scheme and the ability to be like-minded to the rest of this Suns offense, you cannot rule that out. Now, Nurkić returned in this game. There was also something that did concern me. What do we see about Nurk? Is he Brook Lopez 2.0? And what was my big concern with the Phoenix Suns? Let's talk about that next. First, today's episode is brought to you by Hims. Guys, ever feel like you need a little boost in the bedroom? You don't have time to go to his doctor's office to get treated for ED. Your sex life is important. Through Hims, you can get a personalized ED treatment without stepping foot outside your house. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Just answer a series of simple questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option if prescribed, and your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. So what are you waiting for? Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable, compounded products which are not approved or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions required an online consultation with healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Prices vary based on product and subscription plan. hims.com/lockedon. All right, let's keep it rolling. Second segment on the show. I mentioned, I teased in the last segment. I saw Jusuf Nurkić tonight, as many of us did at this point in the game, where the Phoenix Suns are still leading in this game, 104-99. But as I scrolled down to the Jusuf Nurkić stat line, I had mentioned in this game earlier, I tweeted it. Again, I'm not a big tweet deleter, but I tweeted this, basically saying, I'm once again skeptical that Jusuf Nurkić can be an effective three-point shooter. Well, for the first couple of shots of Jusuf Nurkic's three-point career in the preseason for the Phoenix Suns, that's how I felt. Some really ugly misses. And I want to hone into this Jusuf Nurkić Brook Lopez comp because I don't all the time get to just do a monologue on this, but let's talk about it. Jusuf Nurkić, I'm still highly skeptical can be Brook Lopez. That's basically the comp for the Phoenix Suns all the time, or at least to Suns fans when it comes to Jusuf Nurkić. Well, Budenholzer with Brook Lopez turned him into one of the most effective 3-and-D centers in the NBA. And my response or rebuttal to that has almost always been, well, Brook Lopez was not only an amazing three-point shooter for a big man, stretched the floor well and worked well with Giannis Antetokounmpo, who was basically forced to go outside to shoot threes because Giannis clogs up the lane because the dude doesn't have a package outside of backing down and running over whoever's next to him. It's just a hard comp for me to come to Jusuf Nurkić to Brook Lopez. And I worry if he can't reach the Brook Lopez threshold of what Mike Budenholzer is looking for. Because I worry then you have to change on the fly. What, again, I love about Budenholzer's offense is you can see it. It's very clear, this is Budenholzer's offense. And I don't fault Budenholzer for wanting to go through this process of possibly turning Jusuf Nurkić into this Brook Lopez player. But it did worry me. There were a couple of threes from Jusuf Nurkić that were just ugly. Now, you can chop that up to just this very, very plainly. well, it's his first game back. His first 2 threes, kind of ugly. Hasn't played basketball in a few months. And I can buy all of that. But there's also that other element to Brook Lopez, which was how effective he was on the defensive side. A defensive player of the year candidate at times, Brook Lopez. I just believe that's a really high threshold to put a guy like Jusuf Nurkić on. I don't necessarily think it can't happen, but there are all these Suns fans that are buying back into Jusuf Nurkić who weren't the biggest fan of him because of the nonsense that sometimes Jusuf Nurkić can get you in. At times, he misses bunnies around the rim or he commits a stupid foul. I saw a couple of those tonight. So Suns fans are kind of buying into this Brook Lopez thing and buying back into Jusuf Nurkić. I don't want to set you up for failure. I as well want to believe that Jusuf Nurkić can be this amazing 3-and-D center, or at least 75% of Brook Lopez. But I also want to open up your mind to that might not happen. And it might look clunky for a little bit. And there might be a time where Budenholzer pulls the cord on that and says, yeah, this is not working. This isn't what Nurkić does well. Let's try to revamp this offense a little bit. And it's why I tell Suns fans, with the season coming up very soon, don't be out on the Phoenix Suns if through the first 20 games they're 12-8 or they're 14-6 be kind of good. But you guys know what I mean. 12-8 or 10-10 or 11 and whatever it is. Let them figure it out. There's going to be growing pains. If you ever need someone to be honest and tell you if it's bad, I will tell you. I will not lie to you. So that was my one concern with Jusuf Nurkić, who mostly looked pretty good, but I still want to pump the brakes on the Jusuf Nurkić is going to be Brook Lopez 2.0. Let's see how it plays out. Let's see what Mike Budenholzer wants to do. But let's maybe just let Nurkić be Nurkić. And as the president of the defense of Jusuf Nurkić fan club over here, Nurkić is highly important to this offense. And he's not going anywhere. And unless you can get a significant upgrade over him in the NBA at center, you're not letting go of Jusuf Nurkić. You're just not. There's not anyone comparable to Jusuf Nurkić that'd be willing to make you give up more for that guy. If it ain't Joel Embiid, if it ain't Nikola Jokic, if it ain't insert star center here, it's probably not worth it. Here was the other thing also really quickly that I wanted to talk about. And this was something that I worried about in this game. You know, at one point when the starters were mostly playing throughout the whole game, I was looking at some of the rebounding totals. And at one point, the Suns took this over. So it's kind of, tough to scale it at this point. But here's my point for the Suns, not necessarily just rebounding, but defense. I am so bought into this team. I'm so bought into this team where I have to sometimes remind myself, hey, check it there, fanboy. It might not go as smoothly as you think it's going to go. And I constantly have to do that. Because the Suns still have one glaring weakness. And I don't want to alert anyone because every team's got a glaring weakness. Even the Celtics. The Celtics, I worry about their star power. Are they always going to show up? The Nuggets, I worry about the fact that do they have enough firepower to shoot the ball? KCP's gone. Or the Dallas Mavericks. Can Luka stay healthy? Can they capture that lightning in a bottle like they did last year? Derrick Jones Jr. is gone. And I've told you on this show multiple times, I worry about that Klay Thompson signing. Everyone's got a weakness. Everyone's got a weakness. The Suns is so clearly that they are just really small. Now, I don't want to say too small because too small would be basically me saying they don't have any chance to win a championship. They don't have a chance to go down on a deep playoff run. I don't believe that. The Knicks were mostly small last year, and they should have been in the Eastern Conference Finals if literally not everyone got injured. But that's a part of the small culture. A little bit more fragile, a little bit more beat up. But the biggest thing I worry about, and it wasn't necessarily tonight at the end of the total because the Suns ended up out-rebounding them, but when both of these teams are playing to their strengths, the Suns just look kind of small. And that worries me because Rudy Gobert has been played off of every single playoff game and playoff series that he has ever played in, except for the Phoenix Suns. He ate against this team. Now it's a different team, different players. Ryan Dunn can help change that. Maybe we get to Ryan Dunn and Oso in a little bit, but the one trade that I believe the Suns have to make, I went from want to go after Dorian Finney-Smith, but now I'm on the Ryan Dunn train, so might not be any room for here with Dorian Finney-Smith. But at the trade deadline, if everything is working out for the Suns team and they're the third or the fourth seed in the West, they got to go get someone that can help beef them up in the front court. Because Mason Plumlee, he ain't it. Mason Plumlee ain't it. I think he's going to drive a lot more Suns fans angry this year than they are going to drive him or people going to be happy about it. So those are my two concerns. One with Jusuf Nurkić, one with the Suns' size. We'll see how all of that kind of pans out. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe teams can't expose it. Maybe they're too fast going up and down the court. But it's clear now that the Suns have fixed the point guard position and potentially the wing position, they are still a little small. Looking ahead to the regular season, the Suns got some news today on their opponent in the first game of the season in the Los Angeles Clippers. Kawhi Leonard is out. How does that change the dynamic of the beginning of the Suns season? Let's talk about it next. First, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel, hey, NFL fans, you can start the season off with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, or you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-plays, and so much more on the same page where you place bets. You'll also get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed with a capital G when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. I'm looking at some of the NFL games this weekend. I was talking about the Cardinals game yesterday on here, but just want to harp on it again really quickly. Chargers -2.5 against the Cardinals. Cardinals do a lot of things not very well on the defensive side that I believe the Chargers can expose. I think they can play keep away. J.K. Dobbins runs the ball really well. I'd probably take the Chargers in that game -2.5. You can get in on the action as well on FanDuel Sportsbook. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, let's wrap it up. Breaking news earlier today. Well, maybe not so breaking news. Kawhi Leonard is going to be sidelined for an indefinite period of time to start the season as he rehabilitates with inflammation in his right knee, sources tell Shams Charania. This is a massive blow to the Clippers. How does it affect the Suns, though? We're not locked on Clippers. Well, this Clippers team is missing a superstar. And Kawhi Leonard, if I'm not mistaken, was mostly healthy last year. This takes another team effectively out of the way of the Phoenix Suns. Because I ain't worried about James Harden, and I ain't worried about Zubac. This allows the Suns to worry about one less team. I don't want to poke fun or poke jokes at Kawhi Leonard if the guy's injured again. Must be exhausting on him mentally, but it's hard to say how this doesn't potentially benefit the Suns, that you are evading an amazing player like Kawhi Leonard. Now, was I kind of hoping for Kawhi Leonard to play in this game? Yes. I want to see out of the gate the Suns versus what could be a good defense. Can the offense hold up? Are they conditioned? And I want the Suns to go into this game not thinking, oh, we got this one in the bag. Too often last year was that the problem with this team, thinking they had it won before they had even stepped on the court. And it's hard to say for me that the Suns likely won't win both of these games. They have the Lakers, they have the Clippers twice in the first 8 days of their season. So evading Kawhi Leonard, yes, in the grand scheme of things, does it help the Suns? Does it allow them to potentially get 2 cheap wins in the beginning in what is a brutal way to start the season? It does kind of bum me out that the Suns are not going to get a healthy Kawhi Leonard. It's early in the season. It's not going to affect anything in the grand scheme of things. But I wanted to see the Suns come out against a team that is hungry just like them with guys who can defend. And I wanted to see that Mike Budenholzer offense tested just a little bit. But it is big news. And it allows the Suns, you can look at it this way. The Suns could be just have a soft landing spot. There is an argument to that as well. There's the side of me where I want the Suns to start off tough. I want them to play the Celtics and the Bucks, and I want to see right out of the gate how this team goes toe-to-toe with other superior teams. And the Clippers have always given the Suns fits. They've always given teams fits. They're a scrappy team. So them not having the head of the snake, Kawhi Leonard, who you anticipate was going to be there, but now this mysterious knee injury where he's missing the playoffs and he's missing the Olympics and now he's missing the start of the season. It's all just crazy at this point if you are Kawhi Leonard. It's got to be mentally exhausting. And I get it. You look at it and you say, well, this team should win both of those games. And that's good in the grand scheme of things. But I kind of just wanted to see them get tested in the first part of the season. And I absolutely want to see them get that first win in the Intuit Dome. That is something that I was absolutely looking forward to as well with the Suns against Kawhi Leonard, against Steve Ballmer. But it happens. You do wish the best health to Kawhi Leonard because for those of you who have not had major injuries or have not had lingering injuries, it can really weigh on you fatigue-wise. So that was something as well that had popped up today. And it does allow the Suns to kind of put a team in the Clippers in the rearview mirror, not have to worry about them so much because that was a frisky team that does play well in the regular season. And so now you're just kind of looking up at the Mavericks and the Nuggets and the Thunder and the Lakers. And anytime you can kind of pull one team out of it, that does help. But still, I wanted to see the Suns get started off with a real test. Lastly, what I wanted to get to on this show, my final opinion as the Suns game goes into overtime. Here is kind of my final take. And it goes towards the rookie watch. Ryan Dunn tonight had his first game where he wasn't the absolute showstopper. Still led the team in plus minus. Still in this game grabbed 4 rebounds. I'm not worried about Ryan Dunn. Seeing him come off the bench first again in this game basically shows you what Budenholzer thinks of him. Shows of you that what his teammates think of him. He is going to be a key contributor on this team on day one. Is he more like Ryan Dunn against the Denver Nuggets? Or is he more like Ryan Dunn tonight? Or if you think what I think, he's going to be somewhere in the middle. 12 points per game, lockdown defender, 10 points per game, good passer, superb athlete, rebounding the ball, flying all over the place. Don't panic on Ryan Dunn. Rookie, he's going to have more of these stinker nights offensively. And that brings me over to Oso Ighodaro really quickly. As I feel validated and vindicated on my opinion on Ryan Dunn that I've repeatedly slammed the table over, and I believe I was right on, but that will continue to come to fruition as the season progresses. Oso Ighodaro, I still just don't see it. had some moments in this game where he did flash, at least from what I had saw. 4 points in this game. If I'm not mistaken, one of them was a dunk, or I know one of them was a dunk. I wasn't sure if both of them are. Can't think of that off the top of my head. There was a point in this game where I think he's more of a developmental player. I could see Oso in the G League to start the season. It doesn't mean he can't help this team forever. It doesn't mean I'm out on Oso Ighodaro. He is just a little small. And this Suns team is not in the market of putting more undersized players out there unless in special situations where they're trying to go small. But even then, I think you'd run out of lineup of KD, Booker, Beal, Jones, Dunn. I don't think Oso's in there. Really timid. Got bullied by Anthony Davis again in this game, which a lot of players do. I'm ready to say, maybe for now, let's just pump the expectations on Oso. I don't want you to get a toxic thought of Oso Ighodaro, who I believe can help this team in the future, just maybe not this year, which is totally okay. Don't have an inflated thought on him because it could pollute what Oso could actually be one day. So that's where I'm at on Oso. That's where I'm at on Ryan Dunn. Really excited about Ryan Dunn. Do believe Oso Ighodaro is going to need some time to develop. That is all I got for you guys today. Don't forget to like, share, follow, subscribe, become an everydayer on Locked On Phoenix Suns. Brendan will be back come Monday. I'm Benjamin Garcia. It's been Locked On Phoenix Suns. Can't wait to talk to you guys again. Don't forget to check out Locked On NBA next. Thanks for making us your first listen. I'm Benjamin Garcia, and it's been Locked On Phoenix Suns.